He's one of the greatest shooters in the history of the sport. He's a guy who would love to go against his own defense, Reggie Aloysius Miller Jr. III. Reggie calling games through the regional finals with Kevin Harlan, the Sportscaster of the Year, Dan Bonner, and Dana Jacobson. So you've got Michigan, Texas A&M, and then you've got Gonzaga against Florida State coming up Thursday. Is that correct?
Isn't that how we all drew it up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we expected here.
Yeah.
in our little LA little podcast. Before we get into that, I kind of want to talk about your poll question, because you said, would you rather be a 16 seed and upset at number one, or be an 11 seed moving on to the Sweet 16? Am I
Yes.
somewhat correct on that?
Yes.
I think it's almost a no-brainer, right?
I want to be an
Because
11 seed.
You would want to be an 11 seed.
Yeah, I want to go to the Final Four.
That's different. You said just to move on to the Sweet 16. Obviously, Loyola Chicago still has work to be done and will be hopefully remembered more if they get to the Final Four. There's still an if. But to me, UMBC will live on forever. They will always be that cautionary tale every time this tournament comes around for a number one. Don't you think? Every time highlights start, they will start with UMBC. So
every single tournament from here on out, when we have the 16 seeds that are announced, they're going to have, remember, UMBC, and we liken them to Neil Armstrong. They're the first 16 to beat a one, so they're the Neil Armstrong of 16 seeds.
And if Loyola Chicago loses that first game, we won't even remember them.
No. But it was, okay, so you saw Oklahoma, Rhode Island, Iona, Duke, Radford, Villanova, Alabama, Virginia Tech, Alabama, Villanova, Rhode Island. Then you have Rhode Island and Duke. Okay, so best team that you've seen so far is who?
Okay, I'm only going to speak from, as you just mentioned, what we saw. Villanova and Duke are playing, looking at what happened in the South and in the West with all the upsets. Those two teams are playing at such a high clip, whether it's Jay Wright and the Wildcats and those threes. I mean, whether they're from Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, who's a potential player of the year, and then Duke, I'm not kidding you, look like an NBA team. They are the 31st NBA team.
Really?
That's how big. Oh, they are like locked in. And I think their size, and now that they've adopted Coach Boeheim's 2-3 zone, defensively, they are playing at a different level. So because I had eyes on both of those teams, such a high clip. But again, I mean, Kentucky, what they did in the SEC tournament and how those freshmen are playing now, they're playing very well. So anyone can be beat, but if you're asking me right now, Villanova and Duke are playing at such a high level, better than anyone else.
Number one pick overall. Bagley, Ayton, somebody else.
I think it still will be Ayton from Arizona, but Bagley, I mean, Coach K could not stop. And obviously, I mean, he sees him every day, and he coaches him. But to put him in the same breath as LeBron James in terms of being an elite runner and finisher and quick jumper, because obviously Coach K has experience in coaching LeBron with Team USA. He says his athleticism and seeing it up front, how long, and let's not forget, he was great. He plays great with his back to the basket, but he could also face you up and knock down threes. Very versatile as a big man. I would still go with Ayton as my number one because I think he's a bigger difference maker, but Bagley is knocking on the door.
Does coming back help Trey Young down the road a little more, or is he sort of what he's going to be, the size he's going to be?
Did he announce that he is coming back?
I haven't heard anything, but I mean, I'm assuming he's not coming back. It'd be a lottery pick. I don't know.
If you're going to be a lottery pick, if you're Trey Young, you've got to go because your stock is probably at the highest it will ever be. And to me, it really will depend on who drafts him. Because when you get a chance, and again, because I had eyes on Trey Young, he has a skill set, and we all know that. He is a fantastic shooter. I was calling him Baby Curry because he makes a lot of the same passes and comes off the screens and can shoot from 30-plus feet. But he's not as big as Steph was when he was at Davidson's. Mm-hmm. Steph was a little bit taller, skinnier, but a little bit taller. Trey's a little bit smaller, and it was very difficult for him to get some of those shots off versus Rhode Island. And if it's difficult for him to get the shots off at the collegiate game, it's going to be much difficult at the next level. But I think he can mature into that because we said the same thing about Steph, and we all have seen what has happened and transcribed since. But I think it depends on which organization and which system drafts him.
Talking to Reggie Miller, he's got games in the regional finals Thursday night. He'll have Michigan and Texas A&M, and then Gonzaga against Florida State. McLovin has an NBA Western Conference theory that he would like to run by you. McLovin?
Well, not so much a theory, but I'm looking at the teams like Utah and Portland and OKC are red hot, that they may be able to knock off Houston or Golden State before the Western Conference Finals.
That's a great theory,
but
I just can't see any one of those teams in a 7-game series. Now, remember, both Golden State and Houston would have home court advantage throughout those series between a Utah or a Portland. As fantastic as Lillard and McCollum and Terry Stotts coaching that Portland team, well, I think they're up to 13 or 14.
Yeah, 13.
As of last night versus the Clippers. And Spider Mitchell, what he has done in his rookie campaign, because for a while there, remember, Gobert had missed a lot of games, and Utah was, like almost 8 or 9 games out of the picture. Now they're up to, I believe, 6 in the West. I can't see it beating one of those two juggernauts in the West. I think they can take them 6 games maybe, but I think they're on a collision course. Those two meteors are headed towards one another.
Did you hear the news that Tyronn Lue is going to step down at coaching for the time being, a leave of absence because of health issues?
Number one, yes, I did. And number one, I hope he finds out what's actually been ailing him. I know this has been going on for a while. He's missed at least 3 games that I can remember where he had to leave the bench during a game. It's some type of heart issue from what I've been hearing. So first and foremost, you hope they can give him a definitive answer of what is wrong. I know he's going to be on some type of medication that's going to probably take its toll on him, be a little bit taxing, so I think he needs the time away. But again, we've seen this kind of with Steve Kerr a few years back when Luke Walton took over and the success he had, and then just last year when Mike Brown took over. It can be done. Larry Drew is a former NBA coach, so he has experience in that seat. And again, they have LeBron James, who is the de facto coach as well, who people claim he is. So it's been done before.
Do you think, I don't know if this is true or not, it feels like there's more complaining about the officiating this year than in recent memory, whether it's coaches and certainly players, or am I just, because it's fresh that it feels like it's newer?
You're not imagining it. And at one point, there was talk about the players having a summit at All-Star break with the officials, which I thought would have been a disaster. Look, being a player that always constantly jabbered at the officials, I get it. I see both sides because there are some bad calls. There really is. And even with instant replay, when the fan has a chance to go back and say, that was a bad call, I think it puts a little bit even more pressure on the officials. You just hope we can't use that as a crutch at the end of the day and saying the officials are determining outcomes of the games, because players are. But I get it. I understand. I see the frustration.
Reg,
but I do say you've got to give the players a license to react. This game is all about reaction. At times, do we go overboard? Yes. And I'm speaking to you, Mr. Draymond Green. I think he pushes the envelope because I love Draymond. I could always play with Draymond, coach Draymond. I would always want to be on Draymond's team. But at times, he pushes the envelope a little bit, and I think that's where the frustration from both sides kind of set in.
But I watch James Harden a lot, and I'm always curious because he doesn't make like flashy moves, but he has the Hardaway forearm down pat, Reg, where Timmy would kind of create separation with that. Harden does that all the time, but it's never called. Why?
James Harden may be the hardest person, and I'm going to put him in the same breath as Shaquille O'Neal, the hardest people to ever officiate, because a lot of times they initiate most of the contact.
Yeah.
And James Harden, along with Michael Jordan, probably gets fouled on just about every play, but you can't call every play, can't call every foul. And both of those players, Shaq and James, they use that because you have the opposing coach and players saying, look, how are we going to stay in front of this guy without being able to put our hands on him at times and play with our hands up? Because basically, having this conversation with Steve Kerr, they're telling their defenders, you have to guard him with your hands up. That is almost impossible to do as a defender, to go against James Harden with your hands back and just moving your feet. You've got to be able at times to put hands on him to kind of dislodge him and throw him off balance once he starts to go into that dance and gets going, moving forward towards the basket. Maybe the most difficult player, James Harden, to officiate maybe ever, along with Shaquille O'Neal, that this game has ever seen.
There's multiple reports Penny Hardaway is going to get the coaching gig at Memphis, his alma mater. If he had stayed healthy, Reg, finish that sentence.
First ballot Hall of Famer. Easily. I mean, could do everything. I know people like to compare him to Magic Johnson. They were different type tall guards. Penny was special because he saw the floor like Magic, but I thought he was a better scorer and maybe post-up player than Magic. And to remember, him and Shaquille at a young age.
I know.
At a young age. I mean, we had our battles back in the early 90s going against those guys, and we were fortunate to beat them, but Penny was just a rookie. So I knew the following year, once he figured it out, and they took us to 7 games and beat us in 7 games. So, yeah, he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. This is a great opportunity for him. I know he's been coaching at the high school level there locally, but this is a big step for Penny because now I think if they can keep a lot of those recruits in that Memphis area going to Memphis, I think this is potentially could be a great hire for Memphis.
I forgot this story when Shaq was shooting blue chips and C. Webb was going to do it, but he said he decided not to because he had the disastrous timeout against North Carolina in the title game and decided to, let me sit this one out. So Penny Hardaway takes Chris Webber's place as they shoot blue chips. And Shaq was all in on C. Webb, telling C. Webb, we're gonna take you number 1 overall. And then all of a sudden, Shaq starts playing with Penny Hardaway on a set of blue chips, and he didn't call C. Webb back. It was like, we're taking Penny.
See what happened, C. Webb?
And Penny was the right guy for Shaq. It didn't turn out because of the injuries. I mean, C. Webb turned out to be a better pro, but Penny and Shaq could have been something really, really special.
For a stretch there, Penny Hardaway, remember the Penny Hardaway doll and the whole Tyra Banks thing and Chris Rock being the voice of he was part of the face of the league. Along at the same time, Grant Hill. The first 6 years of Grant Hill, spectacular. Spectacular. Face, like they were handing the mantle. Jordan was on his way out. And Penny and Grant were getting ready to be the face of the league, and then injuries kind of derailed both of those players.
At their best, Grant Hill or Scottie Pippen?
Oh, Lord. It's system. It's system, because if you put Grant with Michael, I think they had the same success, don't you think? I think Scottie was probably a better defender.
Yeah.
But in terms of all-around play and score, Grant Hill, his first 6 years, I mean, he was the best small forward at the time over Scottie, his first 6 years. Body of work, Scottie Pippen.
Did you ever, aside from Jordan, what happens when you have one of those helpless moments where you're just going to get embarrassed by somebody who has one of those nights? Like, I
will always remember this to this day, and I had one of those, and it was against Ron Harper, before Ron Harper joined the Bulls, when he was considered the second or third best shooting guard. He was playing with the Clippers, and he was just a year removed from the knee surgery. And I'm coming home, I have 50 family and friends in the building at the old sports arena, And Ron Harper absolutely gave me the business that day. Now you're gonna get, especially at the shooting guard position, my turn, your turn. You're gonna have your moments, but that was a game that I vividly remember. I could absolutely do nothing against him, and he torched me for like 42 to my 15 in front of Saul and Carrie and Tammy and Durrell. It was pretty embarrassing. But yeah, you have those though. You have those moments.
I just can't imagine what it was like to be on that Raptors team when Kobe puts up 81. Right?
That's awesome though, right? That is kind of awesome though. I mean, the feeling, and they needed all 81 of those points to win that ball game. Right? It wasn't like they were running up the score. That was a comeback victory for the Lakers.
Well, that's why he was able to stay in and continue to shoot.
Right.
Normally, when a guy gets that many points, it's a blowout, and then they'll sit him down. But they actually needed him in there. But
let me ask you this.
Okay.
And this could be a poll question. Which one is more impressive, the 81 by Kobe or the 60 in his last NBA game? Which one would you take?
If I could say goodbye with 60
and never come back, or be second behind Wilt with 81.
I'm going to take 81. I mean, that's stratosphere stuff, man.
We will never, ever, ever in any professional sport ever see a farewell game like 60.
So you would take the 60 as the...
I would take, because this is the last memory and image you will ever have of me. 60 at, how old was he at the time? 38, 39, dead legs, a busted Achilles. 60. I'm giving you 60. Goodbye.
I'm putting 81.
Dropping the mic.
I'm putting 81 on you. 81.
But there was a lot of games after that. 60.
81.
Goodbye.
81.
60,
goodbye. 81. Drop the mic.
But 60, we were expecting him to be great when he got 81.
What did you have in your last game ever?
That was the loss to Detroit in the playoffs. I believe I had 28, and I dropped the mic. That was the best I could do at 39. With a shorthanded. Remember, that was coming off the brawl, so we didn't have Ron Artest.
Wait, who was on you? Tayshaun Prince?
Rip.
Oh,
Rip.
You could score on Rip. Come on.
No, Rip was good. No, Rip was and they had that Larry Brown defense. No, they had a great defense. Tayshaun, Rip, Chauncey, Drive the Lane, Ben Wallace. No, they were solid.
28, huh?
28 dropping the mic. Maybe 27, but who's counting?
Well, we're going to look and find out.
Yeah, look it up. It was 20-something. I guarantee you it was 20-something. Paulie, what is it?
Paulie, you got it?
I don't have the numbers, but I think I see tears after there. You went to the towel, Reg.
A lot of tears. There was probably more tears than buckets because that was it. So that's my point. 60, crying. Last game, 60. Man, crying. Last time we saw Kobe Bryant, he dropped 60. We're not saying, oh, my God, Kobe Bryant got 81. Last game with all the stars in the building, everyone came out to see Kobe. That was his last game, and he gives you a performance like that? Come on, man. I want to go out like that.
And Bird's giving you a standing ovation. He's telling the crowd to stand up as you walk off the court there. That's pretty cool that Larry Legend's saying, hey, let's give him a standing ovation here.
You want to make me start tearing up?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay. All right.
How many do you have, McLovin?
27.
Okay. All right. 27.
But Kobe, but Kobe had 60. 60. I won 81. All right. I got to go. Have fun. Next round, we'll be watching on Thursday night.
You're the best. Thanks,
81. Thank you, Reg. It's 60. That is an interesting poll question.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.